I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to the I Know This Much Is True after show. I am your moderator, Sean McHugh. With me, of course, is the lovely Allyssa Dickert. She is a fan of all things HBO. Hello, Allyssa.
Hello, I'm very excited to be talking about this show. Crazy show, first episode.
Wow, we got lots to talk about. So let's just get right into it. Overall thoughts, Allyssa. What were your overall thoughts on the episode?
I mean, I felt like this episode was very heavy. I mean, I knew watching the the promo that it was going to be a dark show, but I didn't know that they were going to lay this much on you within the first episode. Overall, I did think it was really good, especially if you like this type of genre.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. From the trailer, I was like, okay, this is going to be heavy, but I definitely was not prepared for this level of heavy. It's almost hard to watch sometimes. Like, that's how intense this thing is.
Yeah.
But no matter what, it's good drama, so we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
So it's interesting because we are in 1989 is what I was figuring out. So President Bush's, the first one, President Bush Sr. is president. George Sr. is president. And so that's to kind of give us a time frame of, what's going on. We don't have cell phones like we do now and stuff like that, or if at all, really, barely at that point. So it's always interesting for me to kind of be in a different time zone than we are now, especially with all our technology. And seeing people on corded phones is always it's always like, oh, what is that?
Yeah,
I remember those days.
Yeah, seriously, it's like throwback, even though it really doesn't seem like 1990 was that long ago, 1989, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 31 years ago. Oh my God, I'm old. So we have these two brothers. Obviously, we should start by saying Mark Ruffalo is playing twin brothers, and he's not just playing twin brothers that look exactly alike. He's playing brothers that are 30 pounds different in weight.
Yeah,
right?
It seems, it's very interesting that they look so different, even though it's the same person. Like, I felt like watching the show, it didn't bother me. Like how sometimes when two actors are twins and they play, the same role, and within this show, it was both their characters. It felt like it was a different person. It didn't seem like I was seeing Mark Ruffalo both times on the screen. I don't know if it was the same for you.
No, it's funny because actually, in just a quick teaser on our news segment, I will be talking a little bit more in depth about that and his process on that. But you're right, absolutely. It does not seem like, they just put a wig on the same actor or gave him a goatee and all of a sudden it's a different guy. Like, these are two very different people and characters. So Mark Ruffalo is doing an amazing job.
Amazing.
Now, that being said, I still am not convinced that I like either one of these brothers.
No, it was crazy to me because obviously that there's the mental health issues, but then Dominick has a lot of issues as well with his own, even though he doesn't have mental health issues, just like, being there for his brother. It seems like, from this first episode that you were able to see the love he has for his brother, but he has a lot of baggage, himself, just in a different way. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this navigates throughout the series. The season.
Yes, very well said. That no one, and I do like that though. That like no one is immune, right? Like nobody's perfect. We all have stuff going on. Obviously, with Thomas, who's a paranoid schizophrenic, it's like there's a microscope on him, right? Because everything is just out there. He has no filters. He doesn't have anything, keeping him from just putting it all out there. As where Dominick is more like the rest of us, that we have filters. We have ways of kind of, being in society. But it doesn't mean we don't have issues.
Yeah.
So how about the way we start this, Allyssa? Literally, like chopping off your own hand. What?
And I always get weird about seeing like blood, even though I like watch shows that are a little gory. Like I was not expecting. That was like the first scene. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. At first, I wasn't sure what he was doing, if he was going to go around and start like swinging the knife at people, or I didn't know. And then when I saw him cutting off his hand, I was like, are you serious right now? Like this is actually happening. I was shocked.
I mean, you know, they definitely led us maybe to believe, because he's like praying and he's like, I'm gonna sacrifice something. So like, we're like, what are you going to sacrifice? Once he held that thing up, and I was like, I mean, he was almost like Sweeney Todd, right up there. Like he's got his knife and he's gonna get somebody, but then he turns it on himself.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I don't know if people realize like what it would be like to cut off your own hand. Like that, I mean, I thought, okay, he'll get it in, and then that'll be it. But then he's sawing away, like he is determined, and of course he does it. And I was just like, wow, where are we at right now? What are we watching?
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel. I am very confused, and whew.
Same. It's almost like I feel they wanted to paint the picture of just how his paranoid schizophrenia really impacts him, because we know right away, like, okay, this is this is a serious thing that he is battling, and, obviously has battled his whole life. So it just kind of like paints that picture of like, what's been going on. And we don't know if this is, I mean, obviously I would think that this is like the worst thing that he's done, but we don't even know yet. We don't know. That was our first introduction to him.
That's a great point. We don't know if this is the third worst thing, or is it, the first? I think we're going to find out. So then it's very interesting. Of course, the doctors want to put it back on, and he doesn't want them to. He even says, if you sew it back, I will just rip it off. So he begs his brother, Dominick, to not sign the waiver. And obviously we see that Dominick is torn. You think, of course, put it back on. But then we find out later, like, he says this is the one thing he has control of. So talk a little bit about that, Allyssa, because that's a very interesting moment for me.
No, that was very interesting. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because when I saw him almost get ready to sign it, but then, go back and listen to his brother just screaming, no, no. And when he decided not to, I was like, what? You would think, in my head, I was shocked. I was like, you would think that would be the decision, because, he's his caretaker. He doesn't have a mental illness, and then later on when his stepdad brought that up, like, I can't believe you didn't even try. And the control thing, I was like, wow. I mean, I just think that really showed how much he does care about his brother and just wants him to feel like he has some sort of, like you said, like control in his life. That was just, it was like already the first episode, like that was like, felt like a big moment for, between the two brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when Thomas says to him, he says, thank you. If mom were here, she'd thank you.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh man, this is deep.
Yeah.
And so then we find, okay, so we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're gonna go back a little bit, right? Then they're gonna give us a little bit of the past and how, how essentially we've gotten here. And we find out that they were literally born on both sides of New Year's. One was on the 57 of the 31st. The other was born on like the 1st, right? So literally they're this New Year. So of course they make the news. They're twins born on both sides of the new year. So of course, so for me, that already puts them in this kind of like, different category in a way, just because like I say they're twins, and then this takes it up to even another level.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we find out that the stepdad, I wrote down that he's a gem, and I meant that sarcastically, obviously. What were your thoughts on that first scene that we see them as kids with the dad?
Yeah, that was hard for me to see that, because we had already seen, Thomas and his cutting off of the hand, and then we go backwards, and then we're like, wow, from a young age she was already, you know, being called out for, you know, being different. When the altercation at the table, it just, you kind of saw that, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like you kind of saw that there was already something, you know, a little off. And having a dad that just kind of, the stepdad that just kind of like shut him up, it's like, hello, he needs help, like he's not, you know, he needs help. And I just felt like you already kind of see that you don't have that support from a family unit, mom, stepdad, that you would need to take care of someone that's battling something like that.
Yeah, and then, you know, it's also that thing of like, this is probably like the mid to late 70s,
Yeah, so
where,
it's
you know, we're not too sympathetic to, like, different just means bad, and it means you're a troublemaker, and it's like, just, you know, that whole thing of I don't want to see any tears, and like that way of parenting, obviously, like it's just so it's so unfortunate that, like, that, you know, these weren't the only kids that were parented that way, unfortunately.
and mental
Um,
illness
yeah,
was so, I mean, I feel like just now it's becoming more open to talk about. And back then I feel like it was even more taboo. Like no one wanted to admit if their child had, you know, a problem. So
so now we get we unfortunately, mom, of course, you know, because we haven't had enough drama yet. Mom develops breast cancer, and, you know, is given a short leash on life. And so, you know, Dominick wants to do something for her. He starts trying to redo the kitchen. She doesn't want to do that. She then gives him this manuscript by his grandfather, all in Italian, and kind of says, I've been saving this for you. But that was an interesting gift for me. I was like, wow, that was I swore we were going to talk about his real dad, right? Like, this is like, that was the big reveal. And it's like, no, here's this Italian manuscript that your grandfather wrote. Talk about a little bit of that moment of the reveal in the box and the whole thing.
yeah, that was definitely something, because he had been, even at a very young age, we saw that he was asking about his biological dad. And, you know, just kind of her handing over that manuscript, I feel like it's great. Like for him to find out more about his past, but I don't think what he was hoping for.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested because we kind of got little clues about potentially what it might be about, but it should be really interesting because I feel like there are patterns that probably stemmed from the past that kind of are reoccurring, and maybe might find out more about, you know, why the family dynamic is the way that it is now. So I'm interested to see what unfolds of that, but that is very unclear too, because that's a whole nother thing that
Yes.
we were introduced to another character. That
Well,
seems a
first
little.
yeah. Well, I love your point though about we might get some revealing about where, you know, their crazy might come from, or whatever their issues. I hadn't thought about that, so that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. I love that. Yeah. So of course he's like, oh, I gotta get this thing translated, and we are introduced to Juliette Lewis as an Italian scholar. So at first I was like, really? We're really pushing it here, making Juliette Lewis an Italian scholar. And then, of course, once we reveal, oh, that's why we got Juliette, because nobody does crazy like Juliette Lewis.
Yes.
And wow, this from the moment we see her, like, there's an energy about her where you're like, you're intrigued, but you're terrified at the same time, right?
You're like, so, what's gonna happen here?
Yes, there's like, you never like take for granted when she is on the screen. I will definitely give her that. I mean, I like her. I like her as an actress. I think she's great.
Me too. Yeah, same.
But there is always that danger factor with her that any minute something could happen, and they delivered on that promise, because well, I like too that, you know, she tries to be professional with the whole as she's translating, and then talk about when she finally gets emotional. This is a great moment. Talk about that.
Yeah, like, that was very interesting for me. Like, Are you talking about like when she showed up at his?
Oh, no, sorry. Before that, when he
Oh,
kind of makes her like, well, what kind of guy is this?
yes. Oh, yeah. She just starts saying like, well, that's what I was saying. Like, you kind of get like a hint of what he might be. Like, I wouldn't let him around my kids. And you're like, okay, well, you've obviously read some. Tell me like a little more. And you could just tell that Dominick is like, okay, lady, like I paid you for this service. Let's get
Right.
it going. So I should like kind of let like on the edge of your seat a little bit, like, okay, we want to know. You've obviously like read through it, most of it, maybe. So that was yeah, that was interesting part for me.
Yeah, well, and of course, then it's like, well, there goes my gift to my mom. Like,
Yeah.
the whole purpose of this was for my mom to read it, and now it's like this guy's a chauvinistic a-hole. Maybe
Yes.
I shouldn't give this to mom as a gift on her deathbed, nonetheless. Wow.
You know, she's gone so many years, like not really knowing what was in there, but maybe it's because she kind of knew that past too. You know, we don't really know, but
Yeah. Well, no, I think that you're right. I mean, she was tight-lipped about dad, so I think you're right in that when all this comes out, we're gonna find out why. Okay, cool. So then, wow, then she shows up
yes.
and and apparently had her big gulp of crazy with her, because wow, the turn that she does is just, well, first of all, she's just totally comes on to him, forces her way into the house, and then gets mad when he's a little nervous. Give the
Yes.
guy a break.
It was, and I was trying to figure out too, like do you think she had already been drinking a little bit before she even came over? Because I was like, why would she just show, I don't know, it just seemed like odd that she had that little like excuse, kind of like why she came up, and he's like, well, how did you know where I live? And you're like, okay, there might be like a little loose screw here somewhere. And then she like made a scene, the more drinks, and oh wow, that was and he was just trying to be a nice guy and like, I'll
Yeah.
take you home. And then oh my gosh. So
I
we
mean,
definitely learn more about her character for sure, about some of the demons she has in her closet.
probably the nicest he is the whole episode is with her, and he gets nothing but, crapped on for it. I mean, literally, like, I love the choice of the director, whoever made the choice of literally keeping the Wham song playing loudly during this whole insane scene.
Yeah.
Like, it's this weird thing where you're like, what's going on? But I still want to kind of move a little bit to the song. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on?
I know, that was, oh my gosh, definitely a interesting scene.
Yeah. So, now we have a lot of kind of going to visit mom. She's not doing well, but Thomas is not ever going in to see her. It's this weird thing where he'll kind of get to the door but not go in, and they don't really explain it too much. It's almost like he can't even deal with it, and it's like it's almost like he knows what's going to happen, so he's just kind of moving on. I don't know.
Yeah, or in denial, and obviously I think that him and his mom had a better, well, maybe not, but it seems like, just knowing the stepdad mom dynamic, that the mom was his more so support. So it was interesting. It seems like he just didn't want to, I was expecting too, when he had found out that she had passed away, that there would be, I guess, more emotion.
Yeah. It was almost less.
Yeah, it was very interesting to me about like, well, can I have that collage back that I gave to her? I was like, oh my goodness, like what? Like you just found out that your mom passed away. Like, I don't know how that was for you when you saw that.
No, it was funny because my first thought was, if I was Dominick, I would have like slapped the thing out of his hand and been like, what are you talking about? But I don't have a paranoid schizophrenic brother that I've been dealing with my whole life. So, that's the thing. Like, there's a relationship there. And, I think Dominick is always going to be the caretaker. And, he's going to be the one person that lets him have a voice. lets him have an opinion, that doesn't just dismiss him as a crazy guy. And, you know, I think that, you know, no matter what, it's his brother. And, you know, family is family. So I like that they, you know, that he reacted the way he did. It's not how I would have reacted, but like again, I'm not in that position.
Yeah, having like grown up, you know. With
and it was, and it's very interesting too what he says, because you know Dominick's like, I'm sorry, and he said, it's not your fault, Dominick. It was God. So to me, it's like, oh wow, this is all going into his head, which is going to lead up to, you know, the chopping off of the hand almost.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's what's interesting too, because they kind of keep jumping around timeline. So it's always hard for me when they jump around within like 3 years as opposed to 20, right?
Yeah. Because I was confused for a second. I was like, wait a second, where are we? You know, like this happened, like, that they jumped around like that. It was kind of like, at first I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, so that was, I mean, again, this show is very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I guess at the same time, you could argue it's very realistic. Like they are not sugarcoating anything.
No.
And, you know, I don't think it's going to get easier. I think it's going to get harder.
I do too, because I think that, you know, we kind of find out as the episode goes on a little more about, you know, Dominick, how he, you know, had a wife and that sort of thing. You know, he's had like a love, you know, he's had a family, maybe just a wife, and then now he doesn't. What happened there? How is, you know, now that the mom's gone, how is he going to heal from that, as well as take care of his brother and try to take care of himself? Because, you know, like losing a parent, I haven't lost a parent, but, you know, losing someone that's close to you, you have to do your own healing as well. But it's like his brother can't heal, you know, he has to take care of his brother too. So it's going to be so interesting to see what plays out.
It's funny you say that. I actually have lost a parent, and I had to be kind of the responsible one. You know, I kind of, you know, with the funeral and everything, not to get too much into it, but it was just that, like, I'm the older brother. I have to be in charge. And it wasn't really until like a couple weeks later that I was kind of finally allowed to breathe and grieve, you know, and I just thank God for my wife in that time, because she was like, finally, someone's going to take care of you now, Sean. So, so he doesn't really have that, like you said, because it's not just like, oh, I'm taking care of, like, it's a huge thing to take care of his brother. It's not a casual, you know, just make sure he gets fed and, you know, has a roof over his head. You know, it's a nonstop job. So you're right. It's a lot to take in, and then having been recently divorced, it seems like, or at least separated. I think they're divorced. I think that's what he said, right?
I think he said ex-wife.
Yeah. Who's of course being played by Kathryn Hahn, who I love.
Same.
And they had, let's talk about that scene, because that was a really nice scene they have in the parking lot, where you know, you really got a sense of they still love each other, but they're not really right for each other, probably more because of him. But that she has like a love for his brother and his family, you know. So talk about that scene a little bit.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that, again, out of all the scenes throughout the show, that was one of the ones that was a nice touching moment, just knowing that, you know, he, as much as she's not, you know, in the picture day to day, she did show up in a time that it was important, knowing that, you know, his mom meant something to both of them, and knowing that Dominick's now going to be the sole caretaker of Thomas. And so I mean, I felt like it was a special moment, and you kind of got the dynamic of their relationship too, that doesn't seem completely, you know, ill will. There's still, like you said, love there. So it was nice to see that.
Yeah. It's funny, when he leans in for the kiss, I was like, really, bro? Like, this is so inappropriate. Like,
I know.
But so I just, in my mind, I was just like, man, these people are effed up.
Yeah. But he just was, I mean, I just feel like he's just going through so much, and he just like wanted a sense of like love or something, you know, because, you know, him and his stepdad don't have a great relationship. It just seems like he was like just seeking for something. And in that moment of whatever he was feeling, and just like tried to reach out just to get something, some sort of affection.
No, that's a great point, because he hasn't gotten much affection recently. And obviously, you know, there's a history there. At one point there was affection. So, you know, desperate times. And I thought she handled it well, you know, like that thing of it's all right. Just please don't do that again.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the end. So when, I don't know about you, Alyssa, but as soon as the handcuffs went on Thomas, my radar, you know, my radar went off like, something isn't right here. This isn't going to just go like we think it's going to go.
Yeah, it was set up to kind of think like, oh, I'm just going to wait, you know, for my brother to get transferred back. I just want to be here for him. And then all of a sudden when they pulled that out, I was like, uh-oh. I knew immediately. I was like, I don't think he's going to be going back to the same place that he was before. I think that they're going to send him somewhere else. And that's what ended up happening. And that was just another sad scene. I was like, oh my gosh, no one can catch a break. Like,
totally. Yeah, I mean, like it's man, it's like, I don't know how these guys, like the guys in the, because I want to say it's like almost like a psychiatry ward, right? Or insane, I'm not insane asylum, because we don't have those anymore in theory. But it's definitely some kind of, you know, as soon as he heard where they were going, he was like, oh no, they'll kill me there.
Yeah. And
so I always like think about the people that work at these places. Like, do you just kind of remove your soul as you clock in, or like how does that work? You know, like, because I just feel like, and I guess you get immune to it to some degree, but it just seemed like they were ready to, like, they had no empathy, no sympathy. It was just like, we're taking this dude, we got the papers, we don't care about you and your doctor and all that stuff. So it was just like, oh my God. And
yeah, that was hard to see. That was hard to see too, just because you know, even though it was just the first episode, you feel for Thomas, like you feel for him. You're like, you know, he was born with this, and all he wants to do is go back to his other place where it seemed like he had like a little bit of a job and different things he could do. And then they're going to take him to a place where he literally says they're going to kill him after he lost his hand. It's just like, oh my goodness. It's just,
Yes, I was, I think like yourself, I was emotionally drained after watching this episode.
Yeah, that's that's like a really good way to put it, because I feel the same way. It was it seems like it's going to be a great show, but definitely one that's pretty heavy, and have to be in the right mindset to want to watch it.
Yes, you definitely have to be geared up for this one. All right, so let's get a little bit lighter here. Let's switch over. Let's get to our special segment. Alyssa, take it.
Yes. So I was noticing, because I love HBO, that it seems like a lot of their series are based off of TV shows. So I thought it'd be interesting just to kind of showcase some of 4 of the ones that are based off of that. Game of Thrones, which
I'm sorry, you said you mean off of books, you mean?
Off of books, sorry.
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
I misspoke. I was looking over at my notes. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
wait a second. It is a TV show. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, off a book. So Game of Thrones is one of them.
Good one.
That by A Song of Fire and Ice by George R.R. Martin. Big Little Lies, which has the same name as a book by Leanne Moriarty. The Outsider, which was released, I feel like a couple months ago. That was by Stephen King. And Sharp Objects, which is by Gillian Flynn. So those 4 shows are all ones that I watched and I loved. So that's why also I was so interested in this show, because I feel like a lot of their series are really are really good. The ones especially based off a book. So it's just interesting because I didn't know that all of those were based off of books, even though I had watched them. So.
Oh, nice. Well, what's nice too about a series is that it can really more encompass a book. The problem, I think, with a 2-hour movie, when they try to make a book into a 2-hour movie, it's just, you can't do it. But with a series, you really can stretch things out, develop characters and develop storylines. And so I mean, for me, the 10 episode arc is the best way to tell a story these days.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
We're only going to get 6 with this one. And I can't say I'm mad about that, because I don't know if I can take 10 of these.
Yeah, seriously. But
awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I look forward to your next one next week.
Yeah.
All right, so on to news. So I found this cool article in Variety talking about inside Mark Ruffalo's transformation into twins obviously for the show. And it was very interesting. I'll just kind of give some highlights. They talk about, one, he talks about having worked with Stella Adler and how much that training was about imagination. Because he talks about being the Hulk, like I'm in this green room with this thing on my head and I have to imagine what's going on. And then even with this too, in order for him to do this, well, first of all, he did all of the Dominick stuff, lost 30 pounds. No, I'm sorry, lost 15 pounds, did all the Dominick stuff. And they had another actor playing, his brother. And then he gained 30 and then shot all the other stuff. But what he did also was, like, they had some face stuff going on for when we saw the other actor. So there was another actor being the body, and then he was eventually, but they did the thing with the face and, with all the green screen stuff they can do and all that. So it was very fascinating. And the fact that, like, what a challenge as an actor to be able to do this. And they really didn't want it to be that gimmicky, goatee or take off the wig and now I'm the other guy. They really wanted it to be a different character. And a lot of the actors, and the crew people, when he came back as Thomas, 30 pounds heavier, it was like, oh my God, it's a different person.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up this article, because I was wondering about that too, because I was like, wow, like this weight gain looks like realistic, and obviously it was real. So I was wondering in my head as I was watching, I wonder how they shot this, because they couldn't have done it, together, because it looked so realistic. So that's so interesting. And, I love Mark Ruffalo and everything that he's, been in. And so seeing him play two characters, completely different characters, he's doing an amazing job.
Yeah. And then it's funny, the director even commented saying that, like, when he was Dominick, he was kind of a bear to be with on set. But then when he was Thomas, he had to, he was super sensitive and had to treat him with kid gloves. So, Mark really took these characters on in a way that I think not everybody could do. So hats off to him. But yeah, so that's a Variety article. We'll put a link to that in the notes too, so you guys can go check that out. All right, moving on to predictions. Ooh, they dropped a lot on us here.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, so they dropped a lot on us here, Alyssa.
Yeah.
So where do you think we're going? What are some thoughts of what's going to happen?
More bad. I mean, I just think, they kind of set it up. Dominick's going, or Thomas is going to a place that he doesn't want to be at. And what happened to Nedra with the transcript, I'm very curious to see, what happens next. I mean, I feel like that's going to be something that pops back up. What it looks like next for the brother going to the place where he says it's going to kill him. So I don't know. It's hard to tell, because I'm like, I just feel like it's just going to be more overload. What about for you?
I think we're going to get a lot more of the journey to here, because obviously we have them as little kids, and I'm actually really interested in that dynamic. Like, I want to see more of them two alone together as young kids, as brothers. You know, obviously we've seen majority of this episode was them as older, because obviously this relationship has developed. So I'm interested to see the beginnings of that. Also, I think we are definitely going to find out who the real father is and what that story is, and I'm very intrigued by that. So
me too, and why? Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and why, the mom wanted to keep him a secret from them.
Yeah.
So that should definitely, it's gonna be good.
Yes, but I think you said it in the beginning. It's going to be a lot of bad.
Yeah.
The bad is going to be good, I think.
Yes, I do agree, because you kind of, as much as like we were saying how heavy this episode was, it makes me want to keep watching it, because I want to know what happens, and I want to know, how this plays out.
Sure.
So
awesome. All right, Allyssa, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Twitter at Allyssa Dickert, and that's pretty much it. What about you?
I am on the gram at SeanStar75, on Twitter at GorillaSuitSean. You can also catch me on the Mrs. America after show and the Council of Dads after show. So check me out there. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Engage with us in the chat, guys. We'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Did you think this was as heavy as we did? All the things, do them all, and we will see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.